So, Firepound, huh? Haven't heard that in a while. Hello, I'm Puddin', and for those of you who don't know, I am considered the #1 Firepound fan because I have a almost 40-page Google Doc documenting every single time they interact, including when they stand next to each other, but that is not important right now. What is important, however, is the topic of today's video being the Firepound divorce. In episode 12. Now you may be asking, why am I talking about this? This happened months ago, and you'd be right. It did. But there is a specific reason I'm talking about this topic today, and not at the time the divorce happened, and I'll get into that later. But before I start this video, I'd like to say that if you have not watched CTBC and you've found this video, I'd suggest you go watch it. Of course, I can't stop you from watching this video without watching the show first, but if you really want to know what's going on, watch the show first, okay? Thanks, and let's get in with the video. So, after episode 12 released, a bunch of people in the C2BC fandom started making a lot of videos basically babying Pound and labeling him as the victim in this situation, but I'm here to hopefully convince some people that no, Pound did not have it worse. And you might be wondering what I'm talking about because obviously, Pound was manipulated and that caused him to lose his best friend and his crush, and his parents are homophobic, and yes, I get that. However, after looking at some of the information we had gotten about these two and looking back at some of the episodes, I can say that I think Fireball actually got hurt worse in this situation than Pound, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I know I've made it abundantly clear that yes, I am a big Fireball fan, but I am not glazing Fireball in this situation. I'm actually speaking what I believe are facts and not just my opinion. But I think that covers everything for this section, so we'll move on to the actual video. So to start off, I'd like to say that we do know that Fireball had fallen for Pound first, and this might be common knowledge for a lot of people, and probably most of you, and you might be wondering what exactly this has to do with anything, but it actually has a big influence on why Fireball had the short end of the stick. Firstly, at the time in CTBC when this was happening, Fireball most likely had a crush on Pound for around 3 to 4 months, and he just recently found out that Pound liked him back, and that must have been really shocking for him, and he must have been really happy about it. Clearly, because most of his argument was about that. However, literally 2 days after figuring out his crush liked him back, he basically just told him that he was afraid of them being a thing, and that definitely hurt Pound, but it also hurt Fireball in a way that most people don't even realize. Alongside this information, Fireball also, canonically, his biggest fear is rejection, and this was basically Pound rejecting him, and that also ties into the factor of Fireball clearly got hurt more. And on top of all of this, Fireball also can't cry and let these emotions out because he'll just extinguish himself since he's fire. And he only really has one friend to talk to about all of this that would truly understand. Pound really was the only person that Fireball truly felt a real connection with in the show before Mirror, and I think because of that fact, after Pound basically told him, no, we can't talk to each other anymore, that just, it really stung his heart, because if he really didn't make a connection with Mirror, he wouldn't really have anyone else to talk to, and Pound was obviously his best friend and the person he cared about the most. But you may be wondering why exactly people think that Pound had it worse. and I can explain that too. Now, most people that believe that Pound had it worse would most likely say that Fireball did not try to stand up for him, and that his parents, obviously, they would mention the fact that his parents are homophobic, and that ties into a lot of the fact that of why Pound was scared to be in a relationship with Fireball. And while I would say that these are pretty good points, actually the first point isn't exactly true, and obviously, yeah, sure, Pound's parents are homophobic, but that's not all of the information that we're given about both of them. To counter the first point, Fireball did try to stand up for Pound in episode 10 and episode 9 and a bunch of other episodes where he thought Beer Keg and Glitchy were being pretty cold towards him, and it seemed like a lot of people forgot about that. And you may say that during their argument, Fireball seemed more worried about the fact that he wasn't going to be in a relationship with Pound than the fact that Pound was being manipulated. But the only reason Fireball didn't say anything after Pound mentioned the fact that Glitchy saw him kiss Fireball is because Pound actually started talking first and basically changed the subject entirely to mentioning the kiss. I've also seen some people say that Fireball is pretty controlling over Pound in their relationship, and they mentioned the fact that he kept Pound away from Incense in episode 1. However, keep in mind that Incense was a newbie, and both Pound and Fireball were old contestants at the time, and Fireball should not feel inclined to trust the newbies right away, but he seemed to get over this distrust in the other episodes because he and Incense developed an alliance and became okay friends. The same person that also said the last point also said that Pound was scared to talk to Fireball after their argument. And while this is pretty true, it's not because of Fireball. Pound was actually guilty, and he was scared of himself. And he wanted to talk to Fireball, but he didn't know what to do because he thought that he had ruined what was great between him and, obviously, Fireball. And any other time that Pound was afraid to talk to Fireball, it was because of Beer Keg and Glitchy, and he was scared of what they would do if he talked to Fireball and not Fireball himself. And my proof for the fact that Pound wanted to talk to Fireball but was scared of Glitchy and Beer Keg and not Fireball is his line in episode 12 where he blatantly states in the confessional that all he really wants is Fireball, but Beer Keg and Glitchy won't let him talk to him. So clearly people aren't paying attention to what Pound is saying. Alongside all of this, a bunch of people have said that Glitchy would be a better partner for Pound than Fireball, and that is obviously not true at all. Firstly, these people say that Firepound is a comm ship, but they don't even acknowledge the fact that Glitchpound is a comm ship itself, a literal dark ship, because it's blackmailer ex-victim, and that's considered a comm ship, but Firepound is not, but they still say it is. Secondly, due to the fact that it's a comm ship and it's manipulator ex-victim, it actually would be really, really toxic unless something were to happen, like redemption arc or something. It just wouldn't work, and a lot of people don't realize that fact either. I think that covers everything for this section of the video as well. I guess I'll just move on to the conclusion. In summary, Fireball had it worse in the divorce arc, and I wanted to make this video to clear it up because I don't think a lot of people realized it, and they basically just made Pound a victim, and that shouldn't have happened. And no, I'm not saying that Fireball didn't do anything wrong in this situation, because for conflict to happen, there has to be mistakes between both people. This video was just made to hopefully get people to stop, like, saying that everything was Fireball's fault and saying that Pound did nothing wrong, because that obviously isn't true. So I hope I convinced at least some of you watching this video that Fireball had it worse, and if not, that's fine. I mean, I can't really force you to think that, but it's just what I believe, and if you don't believe it, then okay, but just going off of what I've seen, I think it's true. Well, that pretty much covers everything. Thank you for watching, and once again, if you haven't watched CTBC, go watch it. It's by Cole the Geek. And yeah, thanks. Bye.